Hi, Jamie.
Hi, Amy. How are you?
I'm good. Hi, Clayton. And what I'm going to guess is Dan.
Yo, Dan, yo, Amy and Jamie.
Mary and Corey in the background too.
Hi, everybody.
I see Corey's hand.
Oh, he hides behind the screen. Oh,
He does.
go for there. There you go.
He's prairie dogging it.
Yeah, prairie dog. That's what I meant. You got it.
When I was in the military and we had all these cube farms, anytime there was a loud noise, we'd, like everybody would pop up, and we call it prairie dogging because it was like all of the prairie dogs were, would pop their heads up out of their cubicle.
I might be headed into Cubicleville soon. As the hospital does its shuffling around, we may end up in a cubicle farm.
Actually, really like them.
I'm going to shut off my camera and mute so that I can keep scheduling. Route Match doesn't like it when I'm in Zoom, so.
All right.
Forgive me, but I'm going to keep working on that other stuff.
No problem. Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Just attended our Franklin County Legislative Breakfast out in Richford. Always fascinating.
How was Matt?
It was, there were probably 20 or 30 students from Richford High School that showed up, which was really changes the conversation, which is nice.
Yeah.
Oh, how was Matt?
Mm-hmm.
He was fine. We didn't talk about transportation. Education sucked the air out of the room.
Yeah. Education is stupid.
Nobody said that to the kids, which was nice.
I would have totally told them.
Yeah, you would totally would have.
It's like my advice to Madeline for her life. Don't worry about studying hard. Just marry somebody wealthy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's good advice to young women.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody wealthy enough to take care of your old stepdad. We're going to need some of your committee mates.
I think that would be helpful, but we've got GMT staff in spades. Hi, everybody.
You.
Hi, it's nice to see all of you.
Here comes some help.
Oh, Jamie, are you on like a walking thingy? That's awesome.
I am.
Keep going, keep going. Oh, now everybody's moving around. Hey, Paul.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hey, John and Matt and Ash and Chris.
A lot of staff here.
I know.
Good morning, staff.
Morning, Paul.
Hopefully it's not because I have a reputation of saying weird and off the cuff things that everybody wants to witness.
I have a couple folks with that reputation. Hey, Dan.
Dan and am I going to start seeing you at track meets?
Very likely, Amy. Are you coming down to the U32 one on Wednesday?
No.
No?
Mm-mm.
Then not this week.
Okay. Well, I'm sure I'll catch up with you.
Sure we will.
So what are the events that your two's offspring engage in?
I have a sprinter. She only does short and fast and then nothing else.
Mine's the opposite. I have a long distance runner and he only does 4, 8, 15, anything that's not short.
Yeah. That's like running forever. 15.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, and then they do them over and over again. Like my kiddo, I could be at an 8-hour track meet and watch her for 1 whole minute in 3 different races and then spend the 8 hours watching other people's kids, which is lovely. But your kiddo runs for many, many, many minutes or, yeah.
Yeah, 30 minutes total is usually what he ends up running because of the 1500. And so there's a point at which you're just like, which lap is he on? Have I counted?
That means you have 30 minutes of worry, where Amy has like 12 seconds at a time of worry.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Hey!
Goes by fast.
Got our third.
Yay. Oh, Austin's here. Great. All right. Ooh, with a fancy hat on and everything.
He's looking
Yeah, I was about
paced.
to say I'm on the move, so apologies. I'm going to be on mute.
That's
I'm
fine. We're
gonna
going
be
to get started now that you're here. I'm sure Andrea will join momentarily. And we will get started. We will call the meeting to order. It's 11:03, and I think we're recording. But if not, we should start.
We are recording.
Perfect. Anybody have any adjustments to the agenda?
Yes, I'd like to add an adjustment to the agenda that we add Central Vermont Service Director to the meeting and put that in after strategic planning.
Okay, so new numbers between, we'll call it 7.5.
Yep.
Okay. I'll forget, so just remind me.
I'll do my best.
Okay. Any public comment?
Any staff have a comment that they would like to make? Just raise your hand. Looks like we're good.
Okay, all right. So moving right along, approval of the committee minutes from March 10th.
I'll move their approval as presented.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Austin? You want a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, I think that's all of us. Aye for me
Aye.
as well. Okay, Austin, cool, thank you. All right, so we will move on to the discussion of the state grant application. This is going right over to Matt.
Actually, it'll be coming over to me.
Okay,
And so, as we've sort of done in the past, we will be looking for the board tomorrow to authorize us to submit our state grant application that's due on Friday. We're still working on the package, so it's like we have in previous years. It's not a finalized package that you all are approving, but essentially what we have to date. So Tim will walk us through. Tim, as our grants director now, will walk us through that, the way that it's looking. What I wanted to discuss with you all today is just because of the time crunch, I wanted to make sure that we were in alignment with the leadership committee on how to address the $289 worth of savings that we need to include with our application. And so the first order of business for tomorrow is going to be a change to MyRide. And folks may recall that our 3-year pilot for MyRide is coming to an end on June 30th. And so we knew that at the end of this year that we were going to have to consider how to change that service. And one of the things that I think that we learned from the experience is that, MyRide was worked well within Montpelier, I think, did not work as well as a fixed route replacement. And so we're going to be returning Montpelier Hospital Hill to service. And there is wide public support for that. And then we will be doing a much smaller zone. Here comes Andrea. And we'll be doing a much smaller zone for MyRide that will be just the downtown Montpelier area and a few slivers of Berlin. We know that this is going to save us some funding. We're hoping, around 6 figures. And then that will be approximately a third of the funding that we need to shave for our application. And I should be clear that the 289 delta is just in rural. It's not in urban and rural, but just in rural. The other thing that I wanted to make sure that folks were aware of is that my recommendation, the staff recommendation, is that we find our other cost savings primarily through our seasonal service. We did have one route that was for our Sugar Bush seasonal service that was shown as underperforming that we need to attend to. But the rationale behind here is twofold. Number one, we've recently took a look at some of the agreements with the other providers at other mountains outside of our area. And we saw that the contributions from those ski areas were, proportionally significantly more than what we're receiving from Sugar Bush and Stowe. And so we would like to essentially have some of our savings potentially be increased contributions from them. And the other rationale is that we view the riders that are using the seasonal service as our least vulnerable riders. Nobody is taking the mountain shuttle to get to a doctor's appointment, and so that if we did need to decrease service, that would be where we would choose to do so. I don't want to gloss over the fact that I suspect that Christian Mayer and Tasha may have, feels about that, with that being sort of in their zone. I think especially for Tasha, that service is really the only GMT service that, that operates within Lamoille County. And so I suspect that she may have a counter perspective, but really wanted to make sure that that this group sort of saw things similarly than the way that I do, and if not, then we'll need to look at other ways to fill the gap.
Clayton, are you concerned that if we cut any service from the mountains, that they will be reluctant to add any more funds to us, number one, or may be very unhappy that we're not providing the service that they counted on?
I certainly don't expect them to be happy. While at the same time, I think that they are one of the few, they could do their own service. And so that is an option that most of our other areas don't have. I also think that the funds that we receive for them do not capture an awful lot of the costs that are associated with the seasonal service. And so I think that even if we were to lose this service, that the financials would probably be, good for us.
What percentage do other seasonal, you mentioned that other seasonal routes around the state contribute a higher percent. Do you know what that percentage is?
I don't know what that is, just because I got the data from Monica on Thursday, and we'll be reviewing that this week.
Okay. And I may have been missing this detail as you were just talking. Is this you're suggesting increased contribution rather than reduced service?
And so essentially we would need to have reduced expenditures or increased contributions, to get us there. And so it could be a combination of both.
And that's the other approximately 200,000 that we're looking for.
Yes.
Austin, Andrea?
And how have you had initial conversations, or when was the last conversation you had about increasing contributions from the resorts?
And so we have a meeting with them at the end of every season, and so that will be coming up. We do know that they are interested in and talking about their contributions. And one of the things that they expressed to us recently is that they wanted a better understanding of how their contributions support transit in other parts of Washington County, is that they would like to be able to, sort of highlight in some of their marketing materials that, that they are subsidizing, public transit elsewhere. And so, so it seems like they are going to be, sort of primed for a conversation. And I know that Tasha has been talking with them directly, probably about having their contributions be lower, but she has, been engaging with them on this topic.
I don't know how you subsidize more service in your region and get lower contributions. So that's an interesting combination of conversations there.
Meaning that we are going to decrease the service and ask for more? Meaning that you think that'll be a hard sell?
Yeah.
I think that this is where we just say, frankly, it's better for us if we don't provide the service. So if you want to pay 100% of the cost of doing your shuttle, then good luck.
That was my question, is our possible endpoint on that negotiation walking away from seasonal?
Well, I think that we need to be prepared to. And I could tell you that I would have a very hard time cutting non-seasonal service, without first addressing seasonal.
When we talk about the costs of the kind of idea that seasonal service subsidizes other service, does that also factor in the amount of staff time it requires to do seasonal hiring?
It does not. And so the seasonal service is helpful in the terms of it provides local match for rural. What it doesn't do is capture like Stephanie's costs for, the fact that she's probably, a full month of her, year is dedicated towards, this service. And so I think that that's where an awful lot of the costs end up, being floated elsewhere. Also, Nick, can you remind me when our urban drivers do overtime on seasonal, is that coming out of the urban budget or is that coming out of the seasonal budget?
Well, we've done the best we can to make sure costs are allocated correctly. And we've made some improvements over time, some of those hidden costs. But when it comes to the fact that urban drivers are going down there to work, well, that means hours that they do on the urban side later on are going to be at overtime. So it has, there's definitely a cost factor that, it pushes up costs on the urban side. And we can't, even though they're working those hours on the urban side, it's at overtime rates that typically would not have occurred if they weren't driving down, during the week to do seasonal service. So there are hidden costs such as that.
I just want to say, we have all decided that vulnerable Vermonters are where the priority is. And I think that's right. And providing service on the mountain helps with environmental goals, right? And so as we continue to shrink, I'm just going to soapbox for a second, as we continue to shrink our budget and have to make these hard decisions, we aren't able to meet all those priorities. And that, in this case, should we ever have to leave the seasonal service, there's such an environmental impact there. So anyway, I'm just saying that I recognize that that's part of the goal of providing transit in that kind of environment.
But also traffic mitigation is a huge concern for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they're also required to provide some of this mitigation as part of their permitting. So they have a vested interest in this as well.
And they're currently, well, we'll leave it at that. Any other questions about this that we'll be voting on tomorrow, right?
Yes, and so the thing to keep in mind is that it will largely be broad strokes. One of the things that, we may have reduction targets, but to do some of those reductions requires public meetings, requires, bringing things in front of you all. And so this is, why we have the budget adjustment process, because, we are not able to fully, go through all the processes that would need to be gone through. prior to the grant application deadline.
And so when we present this tomorrow, we'll mention that the leadership committee has discussed it and moving forward.
Yeah. And what I'll do, just so that it's not a surprise for Christian and Tasha, I will let them know after this message, that seasonal will be identified for savings.
Okay. All right. Moving along. Legislative update.
So certainly hoping to be in front of the Senate Transportation Committee this week. This is their final week that they're working on the T-bill, and they've yet to have us in, which is a little concerning to me. It's probably less concerning simply because our position, hasn't changed since we presented to House Transportation, that we're in alignment with the administration on their fiscal year 26 budget, and that we are neutral on the that we're neutral on the rural transfer. And so I suspect that if we weren't in alignment, that we would have been in there talking to them much earlier. They have taken testimony on the potential language that would add some flexibility to our statute, that would allow the rural transfers to happen if the other providers chose to go in that direction. But that really has been limited. There hasn't been a lot of discussion about the urban service reductions that have happened so far in 26. And what is more important to me is the challenges that we're looking at in fiscal year 27. Last week, we did have a meeting with municipalities and with legislators. And the legislators were Chittenden County legislators, and talked to them really about us being in alignment with the administration for fiscal year 26, which I'll just say that, there's mixed feelings with the legislature about that. Some legislators would like us to be more forthcoming and asking for funds, but I'm not sure that that's going to be helpful to us at this time. Everybody is very concerned about fiscal year 27. What nobody has is a solution, and there generally seems to be recognition that that there's not going to be a new fee or tax associated with public transit, and because of the changed dynamics at the State House. And so what you see is a lot of urban legislators who are concerned, but don't seem to be in much of a position to to act other than to try to influence legislators who are in leadership positions. And so that's where we seem to be lacking. The participants last week were not folks who were committee chairs or in leadership positions. So it's we're having a hard time communicating that message to those folks. Of course, keeping in mind that those folks are hearing from everybody and their brother about funding challenges this year. So recognizing that there's a lot of hands out for funds this year. So thinking about the T-bill, my guess is that it will probably be voted out this week. Then there'll be a committee conference. I'm not sure that conference committee will be very important for us to track this year. It would only be if there was a major difference between the Senate and the House versions, which I think that there's just going to be some language tweaks regarding our statute that would be non-monetary. So I don't think that unlike last year when you had the Senate wanted to, provide us $1 million, and the House, wanted to provide us, nothing. I don't see that type of dynamic operating this year. And so that's all I have to say about the update. I will say that one of the things that continues to be extremely helpful is having the Necrason group there. They have been taking notes and sending them to me, whenever there's discussion of, public transit and GMT. And so that has allowed us to be, more attuned into what is happening, even if we're not, actively testifying.
Great. Great, not great. Any other questions? What day are you testifying?
Hasn't been set yet.
Okay. All right. Well, good luck. Hopefully it's not tomorrow at 7:30 a.m.
I'm sure it won't be, and but because legislators are much more civilized than the media.
The rest of us have things to do. We got to get on with it. 7:30 is what works.
Barb.
All right. So moving along to strategic planning. Yeah.
So what I wanted to discuss here was that for the past 2 months, we've had admin all hands on deck meetings where we're trying to sort of break down some of the silos between the departments, and also generating sort of cross-departmental working groups on some of our common, challenges. And one of the things coming out of the last meeting was a desire on the parts of staff members to partner with, the leadership committee on developing the strategic plan. And because there was knowledge that this committee is working on that. And so what I was going to propose is that we get a cross section of our existing staff and have a strategic planning group, take a look at our past strategic plans, and then provide an update to the leadership committee, probably for the June meeting. I'm not going to try to be over rambunctious and say that we'll have something ready by May, but then by the June meeting, be able to start to get presentations to the committee from the from staff on what they would recommend for updates. And wanted to check to make sure that that works for you all.
That works for me. Paul?
I just wonder if it bypasses the committee structure.
Well, we don't have a strategy committee anymore. And so, and I think some of the feedback that we had was that strategy is something that should be done by folks in the leadership positions instead of, delegated to board members who are not part of leadership. And so, so I would say that if we wanted to use a committee other than leadership, we should probably, discuss that now.
So my interpretation is it's somewhat like a working group, right? So much like a hiring committee, this is a subgroup that would be board members who are interested to get to partner with leadership staff and put that together. Am I interpreting that kind of right?
Well, I wasn't thinking that what you would have is our staff kind of putting recommendations together and then presenting them to leadership. But if we wanted to have sort of a working group that included board members that weren't, say, a quorum of any of the committees, then we could have staff and board members, sort of working on the drafting. I think that would be viable too.
I guess I don't have a giant itch to make sure that I'm involved. although I'm intrigued. And I don't know if staff would really appreciate the stab at it without board, to give them a little bit of flexibility to have those kind of hash out conversations without board members there. So I'm not sure whether having board members involved is helpful or not. I don't know. Is there a sense that staff would like a stab at it?
I think that my sense is that staff would like a stab at it. Perhaps what would make sense is that we come back in June and we hear staff's recommendations and then decide at that point in time, what would be best to meet those recommendations. Because at this point, I don't know if we're going to look at our past strategic plan, dust it off, and realize, hey, this is 90% of the way there. We just need to start using it and provide a few tweaks. If that's the case, we probably don't necessarily, need an ad hoc committee to work at this. If we want to make some real fundamental changes to the direction of our strategic plan, then I think that, we would probably want an ad hoc group, to work on that.
Paul, what are your thoughts?
Well, I was just thinking that members of the executive committee are in fact board members. So I think you're really getting your bases covered if the executive committee responds to what staff comes up with on the initially.
Okay.
Cool. So I think that unless I hear otherwise, we'll plan on having the staff present at the June leadership meeting their recommendations on how to update our strategic plan. And then based on those recommendations, we'll decide what the appropriate next steps are.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, sounds like a plan.
A plan to plan.
It's about the speed with which I move. I plan to plan. 7.5. Look, I remembered.
Good job.
Thank you.
And so for here, just wanted to send out the notice last week that that Monica is departing. And I think that this is something that I won't sugarcoat it. It's certainly going to be difficult to figure out how to move forward. I think that recruiting a new director down there is going to be challenging considering the lack of certainty. What I wanted to let you all know about is that I'll be going and spending tomorrow early afternoon meeting with the Berlin team, getting feedback from them, hearing from them, specifically what they're going to want from us to support them after April 30th. And then also what they would like, moving forward. This week, I'll also be meeting with Jim Moulton to talk about how we should proceed if his board were to make a decision in the next week or two that they would take over Washington County Service. Then I think that then we would probably work with Jim on hiring a replacement for Monica. We would need to make sure that it was somebody that he was comfortable with, somebody that would, be paid at a rate that, would fit in with TVT's, existing scale. And so we would have to do a lot of coordination with them. If it's still, not clear whether or not TVT is going to take over, then then we'll need to and my recommendation would be to to hire somebody to replace Monica in that role. I think that a lot of the improvements that were made over the past year were because of Monica and who she was, but also having somebody with management authority down, at, Montpelier solving problems, or Mount Berlin solving problems, has really empowered that team compared to where they were. And we've heard that both in our engagement surveys, and when I talked to staff about where they had been. And so I will be keeping you all in the loop on how those things proceed, and we'll have some recommendations by the next time we meet. If not how we're already moving forward, if we're not already recruiting. So I just wanted to know that this is going to be a challenge for us to handle, because regardless of what happens with any type of transfer, we know that for the next at least 16 months or 14 months, we're responsible for making sure that this service happens, and so that's going to take a lot of energy from the team.
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge that Monica's done a great job from all the things that you've shared, and I'm sad to see. Sad to see the change,
Me too.
and I hope it is. It doesn't unravel to the place where we were.
I hope so as well. If we do have a transfer, I hope to transfer it to TVT in the best condition possible, and to not have it sort of backslide to where it had been.
Okay. Okay.
And so I think that we've done a good job and are ahead of schedule by 6 minutes.
Yeah, I'm not fooling around today.
Not fooling around. And you don't even have a plane to catch.
I don't have a plane to catch.
Mhm.
And I'm glad for that. Last time I met with Clayton and Andrea, I was rushing off to go catch a plane to DC to do some work with the Lung Association. So that's what Clayton's referring to. So the last thing on our agenda, or the second or so last thing on our agenda, is to really is an executive session to continue our conversation about performance review. So unless anybody has anything else, I would look for a motion to move into executive session, because it's a personnel matter. I believe we do not have to have a finding, but we will move. And I would recommend for us to continue to invite Stephanie to join if she's willing. And then all the rest of you fabulous GMT folks and VTrans folks, it's been nice seeing you. And we can see you tomorrow.
And
Thanks,
you
Jamie.
for making Stephanie the host. Bye, everybody.
Bye. We still need a motion.
A question first, please.
Yes.
Are we actually be discussing Clayton's evaluation, or are we just discussing how we go about it, process?
The process.
Is that eligible for executive session? I'm just asking a question.
I don't know the answer to that.
If we're discussing his evaluation in any way, then it certainly would be.
Well, I think what we'd be discussing is what I sent out, just a list of potential questions that we would be editing, and then figuring out to whom and how we send those, or what's a better route. Paul, you're much more experienced in this than I.
It may at some point it may drift off into more direct conversation about Clayton's performance. So if that happens, we better be in executive session. So
okay.
So I will move that we enter executive session for this purpose of discussing personnel, and invite Stephanie Reed and Clayton to the session.
Do you want me to stay?
I
believe we want Clayton here at this point, or don't we?
I don't think I don't think we're ready for you, Clayton. We're still deep in the weed, like just getting into the discussion. So I think you are free to go.
I'll subtract you from my motion, Clayton. Sorry. Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. I can go back and take a nap. Thank you, everybody.
I will second the edited motion.
Thanks. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye for me. All right, any